Good morning, guys. I'm pretty sure the crickets are gonna be the loudest thing on this garden tour. Last time I edited a morning garden tour, that was all I could hear in the background. So hopefully that's not too annoying because the weather right now is hot enough to where I don't want to be outside in the middle of the day. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Rachel and I started this garden last May, from just straight lawn. And every Wednesday I come over and do a garden tour for you guys where I show you everything that's going on in the garden with an emphasis on things that are working and things that are not working, and sort of my thought process in real time as to how I'm managing all of those things. I really want to give you guys a holistic view of gardening and not just a highlight reel. Oh, look at Draco. This is my older cat. He is, I think, 9 years old now. Still very spry, very interested in chasing things. Makes me happy to see. So I only have one basket with me today, which should be enough because I picked a whole lot of stuff yesterday. Check out this bee balm right here. This is my first time growing this. That is so interesting looking. It's like a bunch of pineapples stacked on top of each other. Very cool. So we're gonna start with the tomato row on the far right side of the garden. And the first thing I always see is this giant pole bean plant that I have. I posted on my Instagram stories yesterday how much beans are harvested from just this one plant, and like I couldn't even like wrap my hand around them. I had to like balance them on my hand for the picture, and I think there are more ready to pick because there were a couple that were like on the very verge of ready. And beans, they go so fast. These are blue cocoa pole beans and I absolutely love them. I love that they are purple. That is a running theme in my garden. They've got these purple stems and the flowers are purple, but they do cook up to green when they get hot. So they're kind of like magic color changing beans that tell you when they are cooked. So I got a few more off of this one plant. You can see that big one in the middle. As hard as I try, there's always one that I'm gonna miss and is gonna go a little too far. And I could probably still eat this fresh. It'll be a little tough. Thinking about it now, I could have left it and saved the dried beans out of it, because these make really nice white dried beans. But you know, I was just grabbing. And it'll be edible. So tomatoes are partially looking good, partially looking a little sad. You can see a lot of the foliage is dying off. I could probably have prevented some of this by pruning a little more aggressively, but you know, at some point the garden gets so wild, it is not worth it to keep up with it, at least for me. I am still trying to save some seeds, so I've got these little mesh baggies over flowers, just trying to make sure that they don't get cross-pollinated. And oh, hello bee. And honestly, the tomatoes don't have too much longer left. I would say probably another month max. And what I did yesterday was right here along this trellis I planted some fava beans. And hopefully those sprout because I saved those from my homegrown fava beans last year and I did not germination test them like I usually would. But those are going to sprout and start getting big right about the time that tomatoes need to come out. A few weeks ago I marked these with a mesh bag for seed saving, and now that they're setting fruit, I've taken the bag off and put a little bread clip on it so that I remember that these are the ones that I protected and will have non-cross-pollinated seeds. There's still quite a few fruits on these tomatoes that are getting ready to be ripe, and I've got a bunch inside. Probably need to do a batch of salsa. I've been trying to do sun-dried tomatoes, and I did that in my dehydrator, which produced a nice textured sun-dried tomato, but there was no tang, and I realized that usually sun-dried tomatoes ferment a little bit as they dry, which is what gives them that tang, and that did not happen the way I did them in my dehydrator. So I'm gonna have to troubleshoot that and figure out if I probably need to actually dry them in the sun for that to happen, or if I can like pre-ferment them a little bit and then dry them in the dehydrator. I just have no idea, but I'm gonna figure it out. Alright, well, this jungle is even more jungly. The pole beans have started encroaching into the pepper cages. So yeah, we're gonna go around and I'm gonna meet you somewhere over there. This is the jungle from the other side. I crawled in there yesterday evening to pick a couple of peppers, and one of them was okay. The other one had rotted because I hadn't got to it in time, which is one of the perils of allowing your garden to get this jungly. But at this point, there's nothing I can do. I would just rather let it be and I guess kind of deal with the consequences. Look at how lovely this purple basil is. I've been very impressed by it not trying to flower like all the other basil in the garden. So if you want a really heat tolerant basil that's not going to go to seed every week, then definitely check out the purple basils, because this one seems to just be totally fine with the heat. And then if we come down this way, there's a little bit more space for me, but not a whole lot. We've got more hot peppers, and if I just scooch around here, my Tabasco has been ripening a few peppers for me. You can kind of see the orangey ones down in there. Once these branches all start ripening, it's going to look really pretty. It kind of looks like flowers from a distance. So I think that's really neat. I'm trying to save seeds from my Tabasco and also from my fish pepper. But this disease that you see here, I'm still waiting on a microscope to figure out if this is for sure what I think it is. But if it is what I think it is, then I might not use the seeds that I save because the seeds can carry that disease. But I'm saving them anyway, just in case I do want them. When my basil starts looking like this, these flowers mean it's time to cut and make more pesto. If you didn't know, when basil flowers, if you allow it to go, it will change the flavor. So if you want to have your basil all summer, you really have to keep up with cutting all the tops off. And I know that can be really scary if you've never seen it grow back before. But every time, let me set this down, every time you cut basil, you can see it's got 2 new leaves coming out from that base there. So if you cut right here, then you will effectively cause your plant, or this particular stem, to double. And you do that all over the plant. Your plant will grow up again twice as big as it was before. So keeping track of cutting your basil regularly, especially if you only have a couple of plants, can make a big difference in your basil production for the entire season. Okay, so we're gonna come down the other side now. Peppers are here. We've got corn here. Also yesterday on Instagram, I showed you guys I found more corn smut, or that corn fungus. And I saw from the other side, I think I might have some on one of these that is facing the other way. Oh, there's some down here for sure. Look at that. This is probably a little too old to eat. You can see it's already kind of doing the thing mushrooms do where they decompose themselves. But this stuff is edible. It has a Spanish name, which I'm not going to try and butcher. and I put it in some quesadillas last night, and I would say the flavor was honestly not as strong as people made it out to be. It kind of tasted like mushroomy corn, but in a mild way. So don't be scared of trying it if this happens to your corn. It's pretty neat. It was very filling, I will say that. And if you are a market gardener or are planning on being a market gardener at some point, corn that has this fungus can usually be sold for more than corn without it. So while it may kind of seem like a bit of a blight or a disease, maybe you can capitalize on that. So this one, because I let it go too long, it is releasing spores, I think, or has released spores. So it will likely spread itself. And so for me, because I've determined that I'm not like super into this stuff, maybe not super ideal, but honestly not the end of the world. I will continue to eat them if I find them at the right time, so it's not going to be really a loss of food. It's just I was really hoping to save these corns for popcorn, and so obviously they can't be popcorn after this. As we come down this way, this looks much different than it did yesterday. I spent some time pulling out all of the volunteer turnips that had sprouted up here, and I pulled all of my potatoes. So I laid down all of the turnip leaves here just as sort of a mulch, and here now we have kind of the scraggly sweet potatoes that had tried to grow up in between those turnips. So this is actually far more walkable for me now, and I can actually get to my eggplants here for once, which is really nice. I don't have to crawl over things. This one's actually looking about ready. Look at that. I'm gonna have to let some of these go to save for seeds. For next year actually, so I should start marking some of those. I'm not too worried about cross-pollination for these, which it can definitely still happen, but the thing is I don't really care. I have 2 varieties of eggplant, and if they happen to cross, that'll probably just be really cool. My front arch is not turning out the way that I wanted it to. This is a pie pumpkin that I have going across here, and I had these little pests, and I didn't really think they'd do a whole lot of damage because I was more concerned about squash bugs, but they seem to be pretty voracious, as well as these lady beetles. Some people around here call them squash bugs as well because they usually are on squash. But these are different than the bugs that I call squash bugs, and they are not ladybugs. But yeah, I think I saw a bunch of eggs for these guys, and I let them be because they were yellow like ladybug eggs would be, but they're obviously not ladybugs. So I think next year I have to be a little more consistent about pulling those eggs, and also look into attracting more predator insects, which is going to take time. Not gonna like fully fill out in a year as far as balancing the ecosystem, but every year I can do a little bit better. This trellis though continues to be gorgeous. The noodle beans will not disappoint. They are super healthy and continuing to make new beans. You can see little flower nodules still coming in. And I've been harvesting a lot of dried beans from these, which is super easy because there's so many per pod, and just eating fresh beans from those blue cocoa beans. But I could at any time pick some of the younger ones here and use these for fresh eating as well. These also do really great pickled. This is Abby's favorite pickle. You might have seen her on the last Tipsy Garden tour. So this area here, now that the potatoes are out, once the weather breaks, I am going to try and put carrots here. Carrots won't germinate when the temperature is above 85-ish, and we're getting highs of 88, 89 currently. So a couple of weeks maybe from now, it'll start cooling off just enough for me to try a first round of carrots. I'm going to be trying succession sowing so that I can better understand what the right timing for planting carrots will be. So, I'm just going to try every couple of weeks and keep track of which planting does the best. And that's often what you have to do in your garden. You have to learn by trying. It's going to be really, really hard for anybody to tell you exactly what you need to do in your garden with your weather and your climate and all of that. So a lot of what you have to do is learn by trying, or find experts, people who live in your area to listen to, because there's only so much I can teach you if you live somewhere completely different from me. Man, these zinnias just do not quit. There's always fresh blooms out here. They're so pretty. I think they're going to keep blooming until something kills them. You can see making more fresh buds here. We've got some very exciting news. My peppadew peppers, called Malawi, are finally ripening, and so I'm gonna have to start doing things with these. I grew those specifically for Krista because she said that they were her favorite pepper that she's ever had in a jar, and now I have to figure out whether or not they usually come pickled or just packed in oil, roasted, or whatever that is, and then I'm gonna start making some. I've also got my golden honey peppers. These start purple, turn orange, and are pretty sweet, but they are a thin-walled pepper. They're mostly just good for snacking on. And further down, I have this little pumpkin pepper, and I actually tried one of these. I thought that they were going to be spicy, but these are actually sweet, which I think is really interesting. I am saving seeds from them because they are adorable. And then farther down, we have some more new stuff. Yesterday, I actually planted out some of my Brussels sprout starts. This is an old one. Here's a start. Here's a start. And these I actually started a while ago. Maybe, I don't know, these are 6 to 8 week old seedlings at least. I'll have to go back and check. And last year I started my Brussels sprouts way too late, and this year I might be on the early side, but we'll see. This is another thing that I am testing. I have other seeds that I have started later, and I will also put those out when they are ready, and we'll just see which ones do better. Look at that noodle bean flower. These are so gorgeous. And it is on the same stalk as one that is grown up and dried. These things just do not stop. Alright, we can take a quick look at the raised bed garden. Oh, look at this bee! I think he might still be napping because it's morning. The compost in here is starting to settle. This is homemade compost that is mostly broken down, but not all the way. And I did this intentionally so that it would act as a little bit of a mulch for this area. But right now everything in here is pretty stable. I think I would really like to plant some chamomile in here, but I struggle to water things regularly, so getting it to germinate is gonna be tough. And every time this year that I've started chamomile indoors and then transplanted it out, is died immediately. So probably gonna have to start it outdoors, and chamomile should live through a little bit of cold, so I think I still have time to get it started. I definitely do need to come through and trim these herbs back, not necessarily for their health, but for me to have dried herbs for the winter. This Mexican tarragon, this thyme, probably gonna do a little bit of sage, a lot of oregano, because I love putting oregano on my pizza, and I have made plenty of good tomato sauce to use on homemade pizza. And lastly, just a quick check-in with the berry patch. Not a lot changes here from week to week, but we can see that all of the the strawberries are doing well, but I meant to say raspberries and blackberries. Doing pretty well. Starting to climb the trellis a little bit. I need to pin up maybe some more branches over here. And I am working so hard to try and keep this grass back. This right here is sidewalk, or it's supposed to be, but it's cracked, so the grass likes to really get in there. And I cannot spray anything, even if I was that kind of person. I cannot spray anything this close to the roots of perennials. So really what I've just been doing, you can see all of this is weeds that I've pulled up. My friend Abby suggested a metal edging, because the way that this Bermuda grass works is it puts these big runners underground. So even pulling the stuff in this immediate area, this stuff right here can just send a runner and come back up immediately. So I'm gonna have to either commit to hand weeding all the time, mulch extremely heavily, which even that can't always stop the Bermuda, and I might try shoving some metal edging in here to stop the spread of those runners. And as for all these weeds in the sidewalk, probably come through with boiling water and try and kill them and pull them out once the weather breaks, once they're not growing as vigorously anymore. But keeping the sidewalk clear has been a struggle. This sidewalk up here by the garden I had completely cleared, and then it filled back in with grass pretty much immediately, which is really disheartening as far as just trying to keep a nice neat area here, but I'll keep trying. Alright guys, I'm gonna go inside. I didn't pull a lot, but you should have seen my baskets yesterday. I'll post a picture here. I had all 3 baskets full of just tomatoes, peppers, and a whole bunch of beans. Oh, the sun just came out from behind a cloud. That was getting really bright. Yeah, I pulled a bunch of vegetables. So this looks really puny, but with everything that I pulled yesterday evening, it is still a lot to process. And I wanted to say thank you to those of you who suggested eggplant recipes for me. I think last week or the week before, I have tried baba ganoush and I have tried ajvar, and both of those are amazing. I put a little bit in the freezer of both of those to see how well they freeze and what the storage potential is like. But even just as fresh eating, using up a lot of eggplant at once, those are really great recipes. So thanks for those recommendations. In addition to this one that I pulled, I think I have at least 5, maybe 6 other eggplants in my fridge. So that is plenty for, I would say it would serve 3 or 4 people with baba ganoush at least, maybe more, depending on whether or not you're serving it alone or as a side. But yeah, it chews through eggplant really fast, which is what I need because I have so much eggplant. So if you've never tried that, I can now safely recommend both of those recipes. If you like my videos, please like and subscribe. A lot of you who watch my videos regularly are not subscribed, and I know this from YouTube analytics. And so if you could subscribe, that would actually really help a lot as far as growing my channel and helping me to reach other eyes of people who might enjoy my content as well. Additionally, if you would like to support me financially, I do have a Patreon linked below. And in addition to just saying thank you with money, you can also get really cool perks. I have stickers that are designed by my friends, and I also have a group that you can join on Discord where you can talk to me about your garden issues, or just show me the pretty things in your garden, or just kind of peer in at what everybody else is doing. And I also do offer a monthly live stream where you can come and actually voice chat with me and ask questions. Alrighty guys, if you want to catch up on previous garden tours, I will put those playlists up right here. But until next time, I wish you happy gardening.